It was the morning after that we truly understood. By the fourth night, Darren was a wreck, his skin ghost white, his body trembling non-stop and strange bruises running up and down his arms like something out of a nightmare. He couldn't form words. Later, we'd learn why. Someone had left a camcorder running, and the footage showed him enduring what the seniors called the test of honor. He had to recite every detail of the society's founding, without hesitation. Each mispronounced name or incorrect year earned him a brutal hit, either from a fist or the wooden plank they swung like a weapon. Another guy, Brent, took a backhand to the face so hard for misplacing a date that one of his teeth flew onto the floor. Darren caught a blow to his leg when he forgot a Greek letter mid-chant. His shin bent awkwardly, the injury visible through his jeans. One senior dragged him by the hair back to his feet when he collapsed, whispering, "Keep going, or it gets worse." His cries echoed across the room, the blood beneath him soaking into the concrete. But when he finished the chant, barely whispering, the brothers roared, not with support, but with a sick thrill. "Now that's commitment," they shouted. By the fifth night, the tone had shifted. What once felt like cruel tradition now turned into something darker. They brought us to the basement of a rundown house known simply as the Denver. The walls were made of damp stone. One dim bulb hung overhead. The air smelled of mold and something iron-like. I couldn't place it then. All the members were dressed in matching black robes with hoods, straight out of a cheap horror film. The leader, Marcus, stepped forward. He was a tall, broad guy, smart, headed for law school, and always wore this smile that never quite touched his eyes. "Tonight, we test your loyalty," he said. "This house doesn't accept anyone. It demands sacrifice. Some will give more than others, but the ones who hesitate, they'll never belong." At first, I assumed it was just more hazing. I was wrong. They handed us all small blades, decorated with strange symbols, and began speaking about a ritual to balance the Brotherhood. The blades had ivory handles carved with the crest of the house. It was then I noticed the stains on the stone floor, dark, faded splotches. Too many to be random. They called out 5 names. Among them, Milo, my closest friend in the group. Each had supposedly failed in small ways, laughing when they shouldn't, forgetting a rule, or simply being too soft. The 5 were blindfolded and made to kneel in the center of the room, their hands tied behind their backs. Then, Marcus said it, "One will be chosen tonight. The rest of you will decide who. If you can't, the den will choose more than one. Balance must be kept." I froze. This wasn't some twisted prank, it was a ritual. The kind of thing that lives in shadows and secrets. We were told to vote, anonymously. Some pledges started whispering, arguing. One cried. A senior hit him hard and told him to shut up. I looked at Milo. Even blindfolded, I saw the fear on his face. I wanted to speak up, to say no. But I didn't. I was afraid. Afraid of losing everything I'd worked for. We'd been told this fraternity led to power, careers, politics, wealth. I'd seen the pictures of past members with senators, CEOs, even judges. So I wrote down a name that wasn't Milo's. But when the votes were counted, his name came up the most. They dragged him to an altar made of stone. The room began to shake, not physically, but in feeling. The air thickened. The chant they spoke changed tone, sounding less human. Milo begged. He sobbed. He screamed. The seniors asked for a volunteer to start the ritual. They said it had to come from someone he trusted. Then they looked at me. "You're his brother, right?" Marcus said. "Then show us you're worthy. Lead the way." They placed the blade in my hand. And I did it. I won't describe what came next. I can't. It wasn't just violence. It was something else. Ancient. Cold. Real. When it was over, Milo was gone. We burned his belongings. We were sworn to secrecy. Marcus promised us a future of success, sealed in blood and loyalty. Weeks passed. We never spoke of that night. But I saw it in their eyes, the shame, the fear, the weight. We had crossed a line, and there was no going back. Now I'm 48. I have a career, a family, the life I was promised. But every fall, when the air turns cold and the sky darkens early, I remember him. I remember the sound of his voice, begging me. I wonder if I could have stopped it. But I didn't. I chose to stay. And that choice still echoes in the silence. I was just turning to grab a pan for the steaks when I flinched. Alice was right behind me, practically nose to shoulder. Her fingers shot out and gripped my wrist so tight I felt the pressure on my nerves. Her knuckles were white. I tried to pull away, but she just stared, eyes wide and unfocused. "Don't go outside," she said, low and sharp. "I mean it. Don't. Go." I won't." I stammered. "Let me go, please." At that, she blinked like she had just woken up. Her grip loosened, and she stumbled back, like she hadn't realized she'd grabbed me at all. Her face was pale with something close to shame, and she turned away quickly, retreating to a corner of the kitchen. Something in her had shifted. Her posture was tight, head hung low. I didn't know this version of Alice. Not really. And I didn't understand what had happened in the years since we'd last seen each other. "I overheard something at the grocery store," I said gently. "People were whispering. Something's supposed to arrive." She nodded, almost imperceptibly. "Something is coming. Please. Just don't look outside tonight." Without another word, she left me standing alone with the half-cooked steaks and 1,000 questions. I finished the meal in silence. We ate with the sun slipping below the horizon, casting long shadows through the dining room. Alice barely touched her food. I spent most of dinner building up the nerve to ask the question I'd been sitting on since I arrived: what really happened between her and Daniel? But before I could get the words out, we both heard it. A sound. Outside. Alice froze. Her fork hovered midair. Her face had gone bloodless, and her chest rose in short, shallow breaths. Footsteps. Dozens of them. Muffled by earth and grass but steady, deliberate. I stood, approached the window, and separated the blinds to peek through. I caught a glimpse of movement, dark shapes weaving between the trees. Black eyes flashing. Suddenly, Alice leapt from her chair. She slammed into the table, knocking her plate to the floor, silverware clattering like alarm bells. She rushed to the window and slapped both palms onto the blinds, pinning them shut. "Don't look," she hissed. "You can't look." "Are you serious right now? I can't even look outside." "Alice, what is going on? And where is Daniel?" Every time I ask, you dodge the question. She crumbled into her seat. Her voice cracked. I didn't want to be alone. I thought it would be easier if someone else was here this time." "This time?" I echoed, slowly lowering myself beside her. Tears slid down her face as she whispered, "It's been a year." I frowned. "Since Daniel left?" She nodded once. "It wasn't his fault. They called him. That's why we stay inside now. That's why the blinds have to stay closed." "I looked out just now," I said. "There's nothing out there but elk." Alice turned a sickly shade of gray. She reached out and clutched my hands like a drowning person. "Did you hear anything?" "What?" "Sounds. Voices. Anything strange?" I shook my head, but her panic didn't ease. "They pass through here every year," she said. "Locals call them the lost herd. They walk the continent end to end, always marching. Always searching. For what?" I whispered. She swallowed hard. To replenish their numbers. The word settled like a stone in my chest. My mouth went dry. Alice wasn't acting like someone going through a bad breakup. She was grieving. My voice was barely audible. So Daniel, he's dead? Her stare went through me, far beyond the room. No, she said softly. He came back. He's out there now. With them. I didn't want to believe her. But something about her tone left no room for doubt. If I look again, I said, I'll see him. Alice didn't answer. She had started to rock, her voice barely a whisper. They have to replenish their numbers. I rose from the table and walked to the sliding glass door at the back of the house. My hand trembled as I drew the curtain aside. The herd was still moving, silent shapes gliding through the woods. At first glance, they were just elk. But then I looked closer. Some of them were wrong. Their proportions didn't fit. Backs too high, legs too human, joints bending the wrong way. Large patches of bare pink skin stretched across their bodies like unfinished fur coats. And one of them stopped walking. Turned its head toward me. Not an elk. Not entirely. Its face was still human. Eyes, mouth, jaw. Beneath the matted fur, pale skin peeked through. Hands, once human, ended in stubby, hoof-like fingers. It was him. Daniel. I saw him clearly now. The man in the framed photos on Alice's mantel. His face, though twisted, was still his. He opened his mouth, and the sound that came out was guttural, low, somewhere between a growl and a call. I couldn't make out words, but I understood what it meant. Come. Something shifted in my body. My muscles loosened. My feet moved. Come. I was no longer in control. Every step I took toward the door felt like destiny dragging me forward. My fingers curled around the lock. I felt it give. My heart beat wildly, not with fear, but anticipation. I was ready. I wanted this. I would follow them. I would walk to the sea, and back again. Forever. Then something slammed into the back of my head. Darkness swallowed me. When I came to, I was sprawled on the floor. The door was open. Alice stood just outside, barefoot in the grass, her eyes clear and calm for the first time since I'd arrived. She walked to Daniel. Placed her hand gently against his furred side. Whispered something I couldn't hear. And then she kissed him. She stepped into line behind him, and the herd swallowed her. I blacked out again. When I awoke, the yard was empty. The forest was still. They were gone. That was 1 year ago. 2 nights ago, I returned to Colorado, back to that forest, to another rented cabin along the path of the herd. The man who handed me the keys warned me not to open the curtains. Stay inside, he said. Don't look. I said I wouldn't. That night, I prepared. I tethered myself to the cabin, ropes tied to door frames, beams, anything heavy enough to hold me. Just in case. And then I waited. They came with the fog, hooves rustling through dead leaves. Their shapes passed the windows, some lean and ragged, others barely more than shadows. I saw Daniel again. His face was almost gone. Just fur and bone now. Alice walked behind him. Her hands were cracked and red, her legs mismatched like she hadn't fully changed yet. And behind her, something smaller. Their child. It looked almost entirely elk, sleek, fast. But its eyes were human. It turned toward me. And it called. Silmi. She stepped into line behind him, and the herd swallowed her. I blacked out again. When I awoke, the yard was empty. The forest was still. They were gone. That was 1 year ago. 2 nights ago, I returned to Colorado, back to that forest, to another rented cabin along the path of the herd. The man who handed me the keys warned me not to open the curtains. "Stay inside," he said. "Don't look." I said I wouldn't. That night, I prepared. I tethered myself to the cabin, ropes tied to door frames, beams, anything heavy enough to hold me. Just in case. And then I waited. They came with the fog, hooves rustling through dead leaves. Their shapes passed the windows, some lean and ragged, others barely more than shadows. I saw Daniel again. His face was almost gone. Just fur and bone now. Alice walked behind him. Her hands were cracked and red, her legs mismatched like she hadn't fully changed yet. And behind her, something smaller. Their child. It looked almost entirely elk, sleek, fast. But its eyes were human. It turned toward me. And it called. "Xiaomi." Before we dive into story 3, make sure you've subscribed to Nightmare Whispers. If you already have, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Last night, I walked home alone. And if things had gone even slightly differently, you wouldn't be hearing this story from me right now. I'm fully aware that walking alone at night isn't the smartest choice, especially for someone like me. I've been told all my life about the risks, the dangers, that anything can happen, scenarios. And believe me, I get it. But here's the thing, I grew up in one of those rare neighborhoods where the idea of danger seemed almost fictional. People didn't triple-check their locks before bed. Some even left their keys dangling in the door overnight without a second thought. I'd stumbled home tipsy more times than I'd like to admit, sometimes forgetting my bag on the porch, only to find it untouched in the morning. Nothing truly bad happened here. At least, not until a few months ago. It started small. A shocking murder 1 month, then another a few weeks later. But these weren't just random acts of violence. Whoever was behind them was vicious, the kind of brutality you'd expect from the worst horror films. Victims weren't just killed, they were destroyed. Stabbed over and over, long after their bodies had gone limp. It was the kind of overkill that didn't just end lives, it erased them. Then the pace picked up. One murder turned into several in a single night. People were attacked on their way back from work, from a friend's house, from the grocery store. Some were found mere steps from their front doors. It became impossible to deny, we had a serial killer among us. Knowing all this, you'd think I would have made sure to never be out alone after dark again. And for a while, I didn't. My late-night bartending shifts. I started carpooling. I arranged pickups. I even stayed over at coworkers' houses when I couldn't get a ride home. Anything to avoid the risk. But last night didn't go as planned. I was at my ex-boyfriend's place. He's always been possessive, jealous to the point of absurdity, but lately, it had been worse. That night, fueled by alcohol, he started accusing me of cheating because I hadn't responded to a few late-night texts. The fact that I'd been working or sleeping during those hours didn't matter to him. The argument escalated. He grabbed my phone, smashed it against the wall, and told me to get out. No ride. No money. No way to call anyone. The buses had stopped running hours ago, and the nearest stop was even farther than my apartment. So, I made a decision. A stupid one, maybe, but it felt like the only choice. 15 minutes on foot, and I'd be home. I stepped outside, the night air cold against my skin. The streets were almost unnervingly quiet. I tried to focus on the sound of my own footsteps, to think about anything other than the stories of the killer that had been dominating the news. But the fear crept in anyway. The part that scared me most. He had no type. No pattern. He didn't just go after small women walking alone. Some of his victims were tall, broad-shouldered men who could have fought back. None of them survived. Which meant one thing, he wasn't killing out of revenge or targeting anyone in particular. He was killing because he enjoyed it. The realization hit me like a punch to the stomach. Suddenly, my walk felt different, the stillness of the streets no longer peaceful, but predatory. It was just me, and whoever else might be lurking in the dark. I picked up my pace. My eyes scanned every shadow, my ears straining for the faintest sound. I told myself I was being paranoid, but that comfort lasted all of 10 seconds. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Behind me. Slow at first, but steady. Purposeful. I glanced over my shoulder. A figure, dressed head to toe in black, was walking quickly in my direction. My pulse spiked. I sped up. So did he. I was only a couple of blocks from home, but it felt like miles. My shoes were digging into my feet, my breath coming in short bursts. I could still hear his steps, getting faster, louder. I risked another look back, and that's when I tripped. My palms slammed against the concrete. Pain shot up my arms, but I forced myself to get up. The footsteps had turned into a full-on run now. I didn't think. I just moved. I don't remember much after that. It's all a blur, adrenaline and instinct taking over. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in my own bed. My clothes were gone, my head pounding, my mouth tasting like something had died in it. My hands were scraped, dirt wedged under my nails. I was alive. Barely. Later that morning, I saw the news. A man's body had been found on the exact street I'd walked down, around the same time I'd been there. The report said he'd been brutally mutilated, and that identifying him would be difficult. I still don't know exactly what happened. I don't know if the man chasing me was the killer, or if I just happened to escape before crossing his path. All I know is this: I came closer to death than I ever have before. And I survived. For now.